Hello, 20 Pixar films, from worst to best. So, why don't we get started right now, actually? And now, I do know that I am live streaming right now. So, the thing I'm gonna do is I will actually be, how do I, s- I how do I say it? Well, when, when more people come in, as I, like, talk about each, Pixar film, I'm going to actually be, you know, I'm gonna I am going. Oh my gosh, I'm stuttering so much. This is what I do. What happens to me when I stream. But once I talk about each Pixar film, if anyone's in the chat, I'm gonna get them to share their thoughts as well. All right. So the reason why I'm trying to rank them is because incredible. Well, it didn't just come out. I planned this video a long time ago, but things didn't go too well, so I ended up changing things a little bit up. So what I'm gonna be doing now is I'm going to, I'm gonna rank them now, even though it's been like forever and I should have ranked them by now. So why don't we get started actually? So coming in at number 20, we're gonna be going into Cars 2. So Cars 2 is actually a film that I do not dislike, unlike most people. It's actually a film I really enjoy. It's not the best Pixar film, obviously, because it's at number 20, but I don't think it's as bad as most people say it is. Like, people say that it's trash and that it ruined Pixar. I mean, even though it's the one Pixar movie with bad reviews, I still find it entertaining. At least. Like, I give it a 6 out of 10 personally. I mean, I don't think Mater works as a main character. He always worked better as, like, a side character, in my opinion. And yeah, I really just feel like they ruined the focus of the first film. The first film was still, don't get me wrong, I love the first film. Like, you're probably gonna be surprised by how high I rank the first film, but it feels very flat. This film, they completely changed the genre. Like I said, Mater doesn't work as a main character, and the spy aspect of the movie really doesn't work for me. I mean, it just feels ridiculous. I mean, it makes you like the way that the cars have like guns and gadgets. It makes you go, "What am I even watching?" Because it's just so different from the first Cars. Just and I and I mean, the oil, the oil like how do I say it? The shortage of oil was a decent story. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like they should have focused more on racing like they did in the first, which is why I really like you know, this is why I really like Cars 2 as a film. I mean, Cars 3 I meant, because they changed it back. I still love Cars, but that's why I like Cars 3 more, because they actually keep it the same way as the original Cars intended it for it to be. So, moving on to number 19, we're going to be talking about Brave. So, in terms of which film is actually more entertaining, I actually think that Cars 2 is the more entertaining film because and the more memorable film because yeah, it's stupid with how ridiculous the stupid spy stuff is, but at least it's memorable to me. Brave is easily the most forgettable Pixar film for me. I mean, it doesn't really flow with the Pixar formula. It feels more of a Disney movie than a Pixar film, which isn't bad at all. But I mean, like, a while back, I thought Brave was a full up Disney film, and it really shows because it really takes a lot of elements from other Disney films, like kind of Beauty and the Beast, where Merida wants more in life than what her life is currently, and Brother Bear too, because of you know the bear aspects, and with her mother turning into a bear, and then dealing with that and trying to turn her back. Yeah, but I do But I did put Brave a little higher than Cars 2 for a reason, and it's that it's a much better made film. I mean, you could tell that Pixar was trying to make a really great and cohesive story, but just in the end, didn't pay off. So, it's not really a flawed movie, it's more just forgettable to me. So, next up at number 18, I have Monsters University. So, unlike Brave, they didn't really try to take a risk with this film, which is is fine with this film. I mean, Monsters University is definitely a really fun film. I mean, it's forgettable like Brave, Eve, and no one asked for this prequel, to be honest. I don't know anyone who asked for a prequel to Monsters Inc. Although I do know that there is a sequel that people are anticipating for the film. Maybe we'll get it in the future. But yeah, not much risk was really taken. It's kind of forgettable. And, once you watch this film, you really, you just move on to Monsters Inc., the superior film. And, I mean, it doesn't have the creativity or emotion that the first film had. Although, yeah, I mean, the first two acts, while fun, nothing special, nothing very memorable. I mean, I really do enjoy the scare games. That it's similar to like a Triwizard Tournament and Harry Potter. But in the end, it's nothing special. Although something like on a brighter note, the film's third act was actually really fantastic and very, emotional. Like it's like the only part of the film that felt as good as the first film. But in the end, like I said, you're just gonna move on to the original film. Mm-hmm. If they wanted to make it better, they probably should have gotten Pete Docter to direct this film again. So, I, at number 17, I'm just gonna go with The Good Dinosaur because, even though it has an unoriginal story, cartoonish character designs, and many characters like Thunderclap and the T Rexes are really just there to move the plot forward. I actually really like the Good Dinosaur. Much more than most people, actually. People put it at the bottom, like, right down there with Cars 2. And I mean, number 17 is still technically pretty low on the list since it's my fourth least favorite. But I still really like The Good Dinosaur, personally. I mean, the film has a lot of emotional moments that I do feel work. Unlike many Pixar films. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it has a lot of emotion. I love the relationship between Arlo and Spot. It's probably one of the more emotional parts of the film, along with the spoilers for every Pixar film. I'll be a little nice. No, spoilers for Incredibles 2 as well. I'm gonna have spoilers for every Pixar film. So I'm sorry. Yeah, but the part where the dad dies, while it is a little Lion King esque, it was a very emotional scene, and it probably has the best background animation of any Pixar film to date. While it isn't the most creative story, as it has very many parallels to Ice Age and Land Before Time, and I guess not really the Lion King, well, somewhat the Lion King, but I, I just really like this film, and I adore the film's message of bravery. It's a very it's when I saw this for the first time, I was very inspired by how big the story of bravery was in this film, and I really like that. Yeah. So we're gonna move on to number 16. There we have A Bug's Life. So, Bug's Life is definitely a ton of fun to watch. I mean, like many, like Good Dinosaur and Monsters University, it's not really gonna give you like the most emotional parts or tell one of the greatest stories that Pixar would tell. But in the end, Pixar's not really trying to do that. It's not trying to be the best. And, Pixar brought us some really good animation and fun characters. I mean, yeah, it's not the best, but it still creates like many different creative ideas. Like with the circus bugs, the Bug City, just many of the ways that Flick uses his technology. Now, I I personally think that Flick is a better antagonist than most people say he is. Even though he is just another underdog character, I do think that he is a good character nonetheless. Yes. And the circus bugs are a lot of fun as well, and tell like a lot of humor. Mhm. So next up, just a disclaimer. This is where my films are simply like just some of the best Pixar's made, and they get a ranking of either like a 9 out of 10 or higher from me easily. So I'm gonna get a lot of hate for my number 15, but at number 15 I have Wally. I know Wally is much lower than most people put on their lists, and wow, yes, Wally is a really good film. I think it's the most overrated of the Pixar films. Sometimes I give it too much hate just because I think it's overrated, but that doesn't mean it's a bad film. In fact, like I said, these films are 9 out of 10 and up, you know? And let me just get the negatives out of the way. The things I'm not a big fan of it is I'm not a big fan of the scenes on the Axiom, with the humans. It's just it just brought the film down for me. And I guess because I'm not so fond of this film compared to most people, it does bring me down on like liking it more. But then again, Balli's a film I need to rewatch, and hopefully, maybe on rewatch, I will put this film up because that definitely happens to me with a couple of these films that I'll mention further down on the ranking system. Now, what I love about Wally was I really like the relationship between Wally and Eve. It's very, it's very, it works, you know, and it shows that these robots have more personality than many other movies that I'm not gonna mention. Attack of the Clones. Yeah, many of the scenes in space were absolutely beautiful. Earth looks, the background animation on Earth looks absolutely amazing. And I don't know why this isn't really higher on my list. I mean, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Like I said though, upon rewatch it might go up a little more. So next up on my list, I have Toy Story 2. I love the Toy Story films, and this film is no exception. Now, this is one of the films that I actually put higher upon rewatch. Back then, it was more around like Good Dinosaur level on my ranking, but I rewatched it and I love this film much more. Maybe it's just that the Toy Story films are made more for like older viewers than younger. Because the thing with Pixar is they don't just make kid movies, they make kid friendly movies because they go in a deeper territories, which I'll talk more about as I get higher on the rankings. Oh boy, I can't wait to talk about those. But the film's just very creative with the idea of toys being in the hands of a collector compared to a kid. It it makes me think a lot because I have some like Avengers stuff and I don't really play with them much. But you know, and then we have probably the most memorable batch of characters in all of Pixar. Woody, Buzz, Rex, Ham, Potato Head, all the characters really from the Toy Story franchise. I can't wait. I'll leave more of my thoughts like later, right, when I talk about the other Toy Story films. This is just the weakest one in my opinion because I feel like the film really goes into a lot of subplots that don't really like go through much and like don't really need to be in the story. Even though it is still fun with those subplots, it was a little unnecessary. Like the part where Buzz meets the utility belt Buzz in Al's toy barn and he locks him up and he's temporarily with the team. Although then again, we did get that really nice "I am your father" moment from Zurg. That was pretty cool. Yeah. So, coming in at number 13 is Ratatouille. Now, I know a lot of people put Ratatouille much higher on their list. Now, I feel bad because there's a lot of films I want to put higher on the list, but I just can't. But Ratatouille is just a really good film. I remember seeing it in theaters for the first time. I had a fun time. It's a film like Wally that I need to rewatch because I haven't seen it in a while. I watch it more than I watch Wally because I used to watch this film much more. Because since this was like one of the longest Pixar films, I really enjoyed just watching it and then like pausing it all the time, along with another film that I'll mention later on the list. But Ratatouille's kind of like the idea that if it had bad execution, terrible animation, this film could have been awful. I mean, just like that stupid Ratatouille movie, which was basically trying to rip this movie off. But luckily, this film does the opposite of Ratatouille. Well, I haven't seen that, but from what I have seen from it, it's pretty bad. Now, the reason why I put this much lower than most people would is just it's a little unoriginal in parts. I mean, yeah, it has a really nice message of following your dreams, but at the same time, many other films have done that as well. Now, this film probably does it better than most of those other films, but it does enter familiar territory. But the animation of the film really they really worked out with with the animation of this film. It looks amazing how they were able to capture the animation of this film. I know that the Pixar crew had to go to Paris and eat a lot of things at Paris restaurants in order to animate to so they know how to animate the food, and it really shows because this film makes you hungry, and they perfectly capture the atmosphere of Paris, especially from the perspective of a rat. That really works out in this film. So, coming in at number 12, I'm going to be talking about Finding Dory. Now, I probably love this film more than I probably should, but this, in my opinion, is the most beautiful animation that Pixar created. It's not the best made animation from Pixar, I'd say. Uh, it's probably second best, though. I'll mention it later on the list. But this film just... I'll get the negatives out of the way first. I'll do positives quick. The film has a lot of really heartwarming moments with Dory, and emotional film moments as well. And yeah, it's not as good as the original, but I mean, it was kind of hard to be as good as Finding Nemo in the first place, since that film's already so good, you know. But this film was awesome, you know. I mean, upon rewatching it, I can see the flaws more, like, how it's very similar to the original and how Nemo and Marlin are basically sidelines. And yeah, rewatching it more, I can totally tell how Dory's short-term memory loss was really just being used as a plot device the whole time. But at the same time, I can see why they needed to do it. And I can excuse it for that. I mean, it didn't annoy me as much as it did to most people. And unlike Mater, I do feel like Dory does work as a main character. Yeah, I still really like her as a side character in Finding Nemo, but I think she really works in this film too. I feel Ellen DeGeneres is probably the perfect voice for Dory, and I very applaud her for that. So next up is another film that a lot of people are gonna be surprised isn't higher, but number 11, I have The Incredibles. And this is a film that I actually don't need to rewatch because I watched this film like a lot with my cousin. And yeah, I know it's just the 10 films that are above, I just love a lot more. Like like just let me just get a negative out of the way real quick. I did not like the storyline of Helen believing that Bob was cheating on him. I know it is necessary for the story in order to get her on the island, but I didn't like that. It just I know, but I know it's very necessary, and it does bring up the family aspect more, but I feel like they could have executed it a little bit better, in my opinion, at least. And at time, yeah, it basically just felt like it dragged on the film. But on the other hand, this film is awesome. The action is great. The family aspects are very relatable and unique to other superhero films. But then at the same time, it's also because we haven't even gotten a good Fantastic Four movie yet. I know there's Guardians of the Galaxy, but I feel like that's not like a real thing. That's more just a bunch of friends that like characters that bonded together like a family. Here, it actually is a family, and it makes it unique to other superhero films, since other hero films really need to bump up the genre, you know, so that they're not all just the same thing, you know. Hero fights bad guy, you know. They need to do more than that. And Syndrome is probably one of the best Pixar film villains. He's probably my second favorite. I mean, he goes back and forth with my first and second favorite, but he's still a really good villain. I mean, he actually has really good motivations, and we can actually empathize with him. Unlike most Marvel villains in general. I mean, most Marvel villains are just very forgettable, but Syndrome is an exception. Now, the reason why I'm skeptical about putting him at number one is that I feel like they didn't explore him as much as they could have. Like they never like why is this guy so rich? I mean, he owns his own island, and he's able to like create all this great tech. I just don't buy it, you know. And it's easily this film is easily one of the best Fantastic Four films. And of course, we get the hilarious "Where's my super suit?" scene. And something I haven't really mentioned during the ranking was the music. And in my opinion, this might be my favorite. Now, I'm still thinking about it because there's a lot of films. Actually, no, it's not my favorite, but Michael Giacchino created a great score for this film. It really does feel like it gives it its own tone. Like I believe it has like a '60s feel or something like that, and it really fits in with this film. It really works in my opinion. So now we're going into more controversial category. Number 10, we have Cars 3. Yeah, you guys must be surprised that I have Cars 3 so high up. Now, I actually made a review for this film a while back when it first came out. I gave it a 10 out of 10 review, and now I think I'd lower it down to a 9. Not that I don't like the film, but it's more that rewatching it, I noticed more of the flaws. Like, yeah, I could see that it's very. While I never saw Rocky or Creed, it is very similar to those films. And the ending, where Cruz wins the race from McQueen, I felt like they could have really changed it up and made it better. Because the first two acts were absolutely amazing. And don't get me wrong, the third act was really good too. But I just feel like if they changed it a little bit, it would have been much better. Like, there's a deleted scene of the film where McQueen actually races with Cruz and Storm, and both of them defeat Storm in the race. I felt like that would have been a much better ending than what we got. Where and then people are just calling Cruz a Mary Sue. I mean, I, I don't know about that completely, but then again, they're the same people who call Ray a Mary Sue, which is not true in my opinion. So don't go into that. I don't want to get into Star Wars talk. The fan base has gotten extremely toxic, and I don't want to get into that stuff. stuff. So let's move on. But Cars 3 is it, it's a very emotionally satisfying film for me, in my opinion, because when I saw this in the theater for the first time, I was crying a lot. Like mostly because of nostalgia, because I have a lot of nostalgia for the first Cars film, which I'll talk more on the car on first Cars later on. But I don't know why, but nostalgia really brought this film up for me, in my opinion, and I really enjoyed the storyline of McQueen trying to train Cruz. The scenes with him referring to Doc were really emotional and saddening. It's a great film, you know. At least for me, it's just emotional. The animation is absolutely beautiful, especially the backgrounds. They really do feel like real places, in my opinion. Now, uh, I think that's all I have to say on Cars 3. So let's move on to number 9, which is another controversial opinion. I have so many controversial opinions. So number 9, I have The Incredibles 2, and this is more controversial at the fact that I put this above the first Incredibles film, which it may be shocking to you, but I do actually enjoy the film much more. I mean, it fixed the one problem I had with the first film, which was really just that it dragged on with the mother, with the Bob cheating on Helen plot, and more just it really dragged the film for me in the middle. But this film I felt was entertaining beginning to end. Like it never felt like it dragged on at all, in my opinion. And the only real problem I have is basically everyone's problem with the film, and it's that the villain plot twist with Evelyn Dever is very obvious. Yeah, but that's really just the only problem I have with the film, unless, well, at least big problem with the film. That there might be like some minor issues that I have with it that I simply can't think of right now. But I mean, the action is great in this film. In my opinion, this is the best animation that Pixar has ever created, and they really make the family aspect very relatable in this film. You know, you know, uh, I'm able to like, relate to like, stuff that happens in the film. You know, I feel Violet is created as a very relatable character, along with Bob as well for like many parents. And I really feel that they really expanded the world in this film and the characters with how they introduced like new supers, and it really creates some very nice sequences throughout the film, and it's really good in my opinion, and it has funny sequences as well with Frozone and Edna, and obviously Jack. Jack gets a lot of funny scenes where he fights Rocket Raccoon's cousin. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Trash Panda's cousin. I should say. Yeah. So next up at number 8, I have Coco. Coco may actually go a little higher on the list upon rewatches, because that is exactly what happened to another film on my list. But Coco is just such a great film, you know. I love the song. The music is really good in this film. I love the music in this film. Jick, really set up the world of this film very well. He does that with all of his films, with all of these films, to be honest. But I feel like he does it especially with the Pixar films. Like, what films has he done? I know he did Incredibles 1 and 2. He did this film. I know he did Up. Is that all he did? And then I know he did like Spider-Man: Homecoming, Doctor Strange, Mission Impossible. Yeah, he really sets up the world in these and and the songs. Remember Me is such a great song. Proud Corazon. all of the songs really work in this film, and the my favorite part of the entire film because they're not just songs; they actually have meaning in them, which I won't go into because I feel like it's better if you go into it yourself. But they really like symbolize a lot of the film. Now, unlike most people, I didn't really find the De La Cruz twist to be that obvious. But I mean, I could see where, but time, not at the same time. I must say, Dela Cruz has to be one of the darkest Pixar villains I've ever seen. Maybe not the darkest. That goes to another person. I keep saying this a lot in this ranking, but I'll talk about him more as I get to that movie, which you guys may know who I'm referring to. But yeah. Oh, hi, Raul. I'm sorry I missed your comment. I've only seen Incredibles 2 once. But, like I said, Coco's a great film. It's very emotionally investing. You know, it really does make you cry. It is one of the few Pixar films that's able to make me cry because of just how they set up the world, and they really make you emotionally invested into Miguel and Hector in this film. And then and plus we really do root for them, not just because they're good characters, but because they really make it to where we do hate De La Cruz. And when they make you hate a villain that much, then you know that they did a good job with it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it might go up because Coke is still a very maybe not a very new. It's still kind of recent, the film. Same with Incredibles 2. Upon re-watches, it might go up into the top 5. Now, number 7, I feel bad putting it this low. I have Monsters Inc. Now, Monsters Inc. I actually really like. I actually really enjoy. I mean, it's a fun movie. It's very creative. I mean, what has been said already about Monsters Inc. It's creative, emotional. Really love the relationship between Sully and Boo. I really do buy it. And it creates a lot of emotional scenes, especially, you know, the one that famous scene in the end where they say goodbye, but then they reunite. That's a very cute scene in my opinion. Randall was very well done as a Pixar villain in my opinion. He's not my favorite, but he's definitely up there with my favorites. Favorites. And yeah, unlike Monsters University, I really do believe that this film did take risks and actually provides more to the table with how much they're able to offer. Ignore the background noise. I apologize for that. And Monsters Inc. is also very creative with how they create every monster and make them unique. You know, I felt that Monsters University just kind of got lazy with some of the background characters and just made them look stupid. While in here, I feel like they made every monster look unique, in my opinion. And just, I don't know what else I could say, because I feel like everyone's seen Monsters Inc. at this point. Almost everyone. If you haven't seen this movie, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Number 6, I have Finding Nemo. Now, my number 6 and number 7 flip here and there, you know, with the Pete Docter and Andrew Stanton battle. And I'll admit, Andrew Stanton has won the battle, but there's still another thing going on. Because if you have noticed, there's still 2 Pete Docter films I haven't mentioned, and this is the last Stanton film that I haven't talked about. This is easily Andrew Stanton's best film that he's made for Pixar, and I really love Finding Nemo. It's an emotional film. The animation is very beautiful with how they were able to capture underwater, just like with Finding Dory. Right. Although this film does go more to the ocean, so it does have a couple more great shots in a way, and it really creates more like creative scenes with the ocean, like with the whale scene, the the part where Bruce was chasing Marlin and Dory, and and the and the sunken ship. Seems like those are just crazy. With now, I'm not a parent, so I can't exactly like relate to this film, but I could see how many adults could like relate to this film with Marlin and Nemo's story, and yeah, it's just a very emotional and creative film, and it's really nice in the end when you see Marlin and Nemo like just meet up again after the entire film. It feels so emotionally satisfying after seeing it throughout the whole film. You know. And number five we have. So at number five, I'm gonna go with Toy Story 3. Now this is a film that actually went up higher upon rewatchability, because I just Toy Story 3 is I feel bad for putting it this low. I was originally gonna put it at number four, but I recently rewatched number four, and that's why I brought it up more. Just Toy Story 3 is just it's a masterpiece. It's a great film. It, so one of the things that really like the main thing I love about this film is how brave Pixar was with this film. Lee Unkrich really took risks with this film, and he made a great film. I mean, they really go dark territory in this film, which I like in this film. It's like I said earlier, Pixar makes family-friendly films, not. I mean, they make kid-friendly films, not kid movies. And yeah, it really shows with lots of plan, like how he just believes that all toys are just meant to be thrown in the trash can, and how, he just treats Sunnyside like it's just a prison where toys are just there to eventually die and get thrown away. That is some dark stuff, in my opinion, and I kind of like that. Well, okay, I sound a little weird, but yeah, it's crazy. It's how dark and how risky Pixar was, and I really do believe it. Yeah, more risks. Like they make you think that they're actually gonna kill off the toys, which at that point, that's like crazy. This is why I like films like Infinity War, because they make you feel worried about the characters. And of course, like I said, with Marlin meeting, reuniting with Nemo in the end, the scene where Andy gives his toys to is such an emotional scene, and it makes me question why they're making a Toy Story 4. Just hopefully it's good at least. It's just it's just a great film, you know, very touching. And like I said, it's a film that really grew on me. Like when I first saw it in theaters, I loved it like probably almost as much as I did right now. But then I eventually forgot about it a little bit, and it kind of went lower. But if I watched, it really went up. So I'm hoping that with like Wally and Ratatouille. And number four is another movie that I feel really like went up for me with with how like much I started liking it more. And I have Inside Out. So very much like Toy Story, I at first loved this film, but then I eventually forgot about it. And then I brought it back up. Now I only really have one flaw with this film. I it's weird because I didn't talk about any flaws with Toy Story 3. But it's just an ignorable flaw in my I just feel like some of the background character designs with like the green, like whatever they are, is that work in the mind. They just feel stupidly badly designed, opinion. But that's easily ignored by the rest of the film. It's very creative with the aspects they have of the mind. And like Toy Story 3, I feel like they really took risks with this film, with how they're talk with the concept of like a girl, maybe not depression, but yeah, they really go deep into like the end of Riley, her anxiousness to go back to San Francisco. I felt that was a really great way to tell the story. And it really pays off in the end of the film. The scene where she's hugging her parents, finally being able to like get her emotions out to them. Probably one of my favorite Pixar scenes like ever. It's just such a great scene. Such a tear breaking scene. Ah, I love it because it Pixar really took risks with this in Toy Story 3. Right. And Bing Bong is probably one of my favorite comic reliefs in a Pixar film. Because he's not just a stupid comic thrown into the film. He actually has more of a he has more of a purpose, in a way. Like he really does help joy and sadness through their journey. And this is where I start kind of like getting deeper. But I feel like each character, they actually give the main characters like a story arc. Like obviously, like as one with her finally letting her emotions out to her parents, and then Joy eventually has to learn that it's okay to be sad, and they do some extremely well done visual dialogue, which I'll talk about more on the next film on the ranking. But yeah, it is so well done. I'm very proud of Pixar what they were able to do with this film. Oh, and obviously Anger's hilarious in this film, and I love the triple thing gum joke. Yeah, just it's an amazing film. Next up at number 3, I have Up. Now, I have a feeling now you know what my top 2 is, and I'm sure many of you are raging in the comments section by why that film that I'll talk about in a second is up that high. But let's talk about Up. Up is very similar to Toy Story 3 and Inside Out. Pixar really took risks with this film, and I adore Pixar for doing that. The first 15 minutes of the film is probably some of the best visual dialogue, has some of the best visual dialogue I've ever seen in any movie, hands down. And of course, you guys know, no, the first 15 minutes. It's emotional. It's just so sad by us being introduced to these characters and like just seeing life go through in just a matter of minutes. I know I was trying to say that Incredibles had the best score of any Pixar film. I'm thinking of going more for this film, simply because I really do you know, the theme of this film. It really like works in that case, and I like that for that reason. And like with Bing Bong, I do feel like Kevin and Doug do more than just be reliefs, and Russell as well. Like they bring in a lot of the heart of the film, which which I really like it. You know, it's very hard to show my love for this film in words, and in my opinion, Carl Fredricksen might be one of my favorite Pixar characters in general. Like with the exception of maybe Woody, who's like my favorite because he goes on a big story arc in this film, very much like right. It's her. He's a very similar character to Riley in a way. In the case that and the entire throughout the entire film, one of his main issues is he's trying to go of that scene where he's going through his book, of Ellie's adventure book. It's such a great scene, and then he eventually learns to let go of his, and then realizes that there's more adventure out there for him. It, it's a deep movie. It's just, yeah, it's a very deep movie. Yeah, Pixar really took risk with this. Number two, you guys are gonna be surprised by how high I have it on. I have Cars at number two on my list. I have Cars number two on my list. I have freaking Cars at number two on my list. I know you guys are very surprised with this. Now, the main reason why Cars so high up is almost entirely nostalgia, to be honest. This is probably the Pixar film I grew up with most. I remember when I saw this film for the first time, like it. Really liked it. I know with Ratatouille, I was saying that because it was such a long movie, I used to like marathon it down. Cars was also one of those films that I would do a lot. I had it like recorded on my TV, and I loved going on. It was such a long movie that watched like half an hour a day. It's like one of those movies I like watching with my family a lot. I just really like that. And like I said with other films, this film really go in a dark in a like territory with Doc. Like they really do go into Doc's character a lot in the film, and I really enjoy that. I mean, it's not as deep as maybe like Riley or Carl's characters, but you know, I really do buy like his why did what was I thinking most? But you really buy like what he's doing and like why he quit racing in a way. And it brings up like a lot of heartwarming films for me. Film has like I already said that this film is entirely nostalgic for me, but it also creates like a lot of like fun, like this like, probably some of the most fun scenes in Pixar in my opinion. The story's kind of weak, but I ignore that. I just ignore how much I adore them. Um, I really enjoy the tractor scene. I love the the part where Dark's lightning into crashing into the cactus pit. That was hilarious. And I really do like the characters in this film. Yeah, they don't have the most to them. I mean, it's the same case with Jurassic Park where there's not much to the characters, but they have that small charm that makes you love them, and they do have a personality at least. I mean, in Cars 2 and Cars 3, they basically just ignore these characters entirely. And probably has my favorite racing scene in the entire series. I don't know why, but I adore the race scene with Lightning, Chicken, and the King. It's just really, really good. I know people complain that Lightning should have finished the race before going after the King. Really just made him like a more cohesive character because of that. You know, like how Lightning decided, who cares about race? I mean, and he just does the right thing. I've always really liked that. I know I love like these little happy endings, like how I love the end of like those films, but I just really love. You know, I feel the backgrounds perfectly capture Route 66 because I've actually been down there, and I'm impressed by how accurate they were in it. I'm very impressed indeed. And then number one, before number one, I actually did some surveys to see. I talked to some of my good friends on what they, you know, their favorite Pixar film, and I actually did like a full out survey, and so I got about 22 in general, and so far the statistics go like this: 6 people voted for Toy Story, 5 people voted for Coco, 2 people voted for Monster, 2 people voted for The Incredibles 2, 3 people went for The Incredibles, 1 person Louis, 1 person put Cars, 1 person put Wally, 1 person put Up. Where's my Inside Out at? Story 3. Gosh, where are those? Where's those Finding Nemos? And at least 1 person though. Yeah. And the majority vote is my favorite as well. I mean, what can be said about Cars 2? I mean, really, obviously the best Pixar film ever made. The film is a master. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Toy Story. I mean, what hasn't been said already? Toy Story. I mean, it's such a great film. It really branched out computer animation genre as a whole, as we're able to get like it was the first CGI film ever made, and it still looks great to this day. Yeah, the human design are a bit dated, but I still really do feel that it looks great in general. Like I'm impressed by what Pixar has been able to do. I mean, people to this day making animation today haven't made animation as good as Toy Story, which came out more than 20 years ago, which I find ridiculous. Like, freaking Norm of the North looks worse than this film. Like, how? How? I understand if you have like a low budget, but how? Yeah. Then Toy Story, it has it's a classic story. You just put it on. It's a great movie. I like watching with my family. It always gives you a laugh. They really like develop and Buzz as characters, like not just in this film, but throughout the entire series. Oh, and also I forgot to mention the other villain competing syndrome was Lasso. I forgot to mention him because of how deep te- I was going in a 3. And while yeah, there are films that go deeper into stuff than Toy Story. Toy Story is just that one film that always put on and you'll always be really entertained. That's the same. I mean, I'd say the same with Cars, but Toy Story is much shorter than Cars, so it's one that you could enjoy much faster. And it's one that's just super enjoyable. It has like some extremely memorable scenes, like the part where Buzz was flying, and then Woody was like, "Buzz, you're flying," and then Buzz was all like, "This isn't, it's falling with style." I love that scene. I love the. I mean, yeah, it kind of does to defy physics with how RC is able to race up with actual cars, which I found kind of ridiculous. But I find that forgivable with how great the film is. This is definitely like top 10 favorite films for me. It's probably like at my number 6, I'd say. It just, and it's probably my favorite animated film of all time. Yeah, thanks for watching this video, or if you join the podcast, which none of you have. have thank you. And if you somehow make it all the way here, thanks for watching all the way here through here. Now, Ant-Man and the Wasp has came out recently, and I do plan on doing a Marvel ranking video soon. I'm gonna do like some. I'm gonna get some I'm not sure if I could go as deep as I did with Pixar for like the last ones about were very like deep because while Marvel's doing better like now, but film wow really good, not the best. But I still really want to talk about those Marvel movies. So thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you want to like this. I'll read it more podcast style rather than like Chris Stuckman style or Corey's review style. I've really just enjoyed it this way more. So it's more of like a podcast thing where you go for a run and listen to this. Yeah, and hopefully I'll like a podcast soon. Now hopefully I could get like a friend to like do a podcast with me because that would be much better. Yeah. So once again, thank you for watching this ranking, and I hope I can see you guys next time. So bye.